The winter wind of the high Arizona desert had a sharpness that even old ranch hands feared. It came down from the snow-covered mountains like a long, cold hand, sliding across the land and shaking every dry branch in its path. On this night, the wind was stronger than usual. It rattled the wooden boards of the Turner Ranch and made the small windows whistle, as if someone outside was calling through them. Inside the ranch house, Caleb Turner, a quiet rancher in his early 30s, sat near the fireplace, rubbing his hands and listening to the storm build. He was used to long winters, but this one felt different. The temperature was dropping fast, and he worried about his cattle, especially the young ones that were not strong enough to face such cold. Caleb stood up, put on his coat, grabbed a lantern, and walked outside to check his animals one last time before the night became too harsh. The snow crunched loudly under his boots, and each breath left a cloud of white air in front of him. He moved slowly but steadily toward the barn, the only sound being the wind pushing against him. The barn was warm enough for the animals, thanks to the work he had done earlier. He checked each stall, making sure the horses had water that wasn't frozen and the cattle were sheltered properly. After finishing, he turned to leave, and that's when he heard it. A soft sound. Not the wind, not the animals, and not any noise he recognized. It came again, this time clearer. A faint crunch in the snow, like someone walking slowly but unsteadily. Caleb lifted the lantern higher and stepped outside the barn, scanning the white-covered ground. The storm made it hard to see far, but then something moved, a small shape near the fence. He narrowed his eyes, feeling his heartbeat slow into a careful rhythm. The figure moved closer one step, then another, as if gathering the last bit of strength left as the lantern's glow reached the shape. Caleb finally saw who it was, a young Apache girl, wrapped in a thin blanket that did nothing against the biting cold. Her hair was long and dark, falling over her shoulders like wet strings. Snowflakes covered her blanket, her hair, and her eyelashes. Her face looked pale from the cold, and her lips trembled uncontrollably. She stopped a few feet away from him, struggling to hold herself steady. Caleb stepped closer cautiously but gently. "Are you hurt?" he asked calmly. She shook her head slightly, though her teeth clicked as she tried to speak. After a moment, she whispered, barely loud enough to hear through the wind, "Need to warm up tonight." Her voice was soft, tired, and full of cold. It wasn't a request for anything more than survival, the kind every human understood in a harsh winter. Caleb nodded immediately. His nature was simple. If someone needed help, he helped. No questions, no doubt. Especially not in weather that could take a life within hours. "Come on," he said gently. "There's a fire inside." He held out his arm so she could steady herself. She hesitated for one moment, a natural caution from someone raised in a world that did not always treat her people kindly. But the cold reminded her she had no choice, and she placed her hand lightly on his sleeve. Her fingers were almost ice. Caleb guided her carefully through the storm, shielding her with his body. When they reached the ranch house, he opened the door quickly and led her inside. Warmth hit her like a wave. She closed her eyes for a moment, breathing in the relief. The fire in the stone fireplace glowed brightly, filling the room with a soft golden light. Caleb closed the door against the wind and helped her take off the snow-covered blanket. She stood near the fire, holding out her hands but keeping a respectful distance from him. Her shivering slowly eased, but her face still showed exhaustion. Caleb moved quickly but calmly, placing a kettle near the fire and adding more logs. "Sit," he urged gently, pulling out a wooden chair for her. She nodded and sat carefully, as if her body was too tired to argue. "What's your name?" Caleb asked softly. She looked at him for a moment, studying his face, as if trying to judge if he was safe. After a pause, she answered, "Nayeli." The name suited her, calm, soft, and strong in its own way. "I'm Caleb," he said. "You're safe here." Nayeli didn't speak, but her eyes softened slightly. After a few minutes, the kettle warmed enough for tea. Caleb poured a cup, added some honey, and handed it to her. She wrapped both hands around the cup, letting the heat soak into her fingers. "Thank you," she whispered. Storm caught you out there?" Caleb asked gently. She nodded slowly. "I was looking for herbs. For my mother." Weather changed fast. Too fast. Her voice carried embarrassment, as if she felt she should have been more prepared. Even though no one could have predicted the sudden drop in temperature. "How long were you out in the cold?" Caleb asked. "Hours," she whispered. "I kept walking. Then I saw the light from your barn." Caleb felt a knot in his chest. "You did well to keep moving," he said quietly. "If you had stopped—" He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Nayeli looked into the fire, her eyes reflecting the flames. She wrapped the warm blanket he gave her around her shoulders. Her breathing became steadier. The ranch house was small, but comfortable wooden walls. Simple furniture and shelves filled with tools, books, and old photographs. The fire crackled gently, creating a soft rhythm in the quiet room. Caleb sat a respectful distance away, giving her space. He didn't ask anything unnecessary. He didn't stare. He simply made sure she was warm and safe. Minutes passed, but neither felt awkward. The silence was peaceful, like the calm before dawn. Finally, Nayeli spoke again. "You live alone here?" "Yes," Caleb replied. "Been alone for years. Just me, the cattle, and the land." She nodded slowly, understanding the loneliness without needing more explanation. Outside, the wind howled loudly, making the windows shake. Nayeli flinched lightly. The sudden noise reminded her of how harsh the storm still was. "You won't be able to go back tonight," Caleb said gently. "The trail is gone under the snow. It's too dangerous." Nayeli sighed but didn't argue. "I know," she said softly. "The cold is strong tonight." "You can stay here," he offered. "I'll keep the fire going. You'll be safe." She looked at him again, this time longer, searching for any sign of dishonesty. But Caleb's face was calm and sincere. He was a man of the land, and people like him didn't hide their nature. "Thank you," Nayeli whispered. "I won't forget this." Caleb stood and brought another blanket, thicker than the first. He placed it gently around her shoulders. "Try to sleep," he said. "The fire will stay warm." Nayeli nodded, her eyes already heavy. The long walk, the cold, and the fear she had carried for hours were finally fading. She curled up on the small cot near the fire, resting her head on a soft pillow Caleb placed there. For the first time that night, she felt safe. Caleb sat in his chair, feeding the fire quietly to keep her warm. He didn't leave the room. He didn't close his eyes. He stayed awake, making sure the flames never faded. The storm continued outside, pounding the land with its icy breath. But inside the ranch house, there was warmth, the kind that came not just from firewood but from quiet kindness. Before drifting into sleep, Nayeli whispered one last thing, her voice barely louder than the crackling fire. "I'm glad your light was there, or I would not be here now." Caleb didn't respond. He simply looked at her sleeping form and nodded to himself. Fate had brought her to his door tonight, and he accepted that without question. The night passed slowly, but it passed safely. And as the firelight warmed the room, something gentle began forming between a lonely rancher and a frightened Apache girl, something neither of them yet understood, but both quietly felt. Morning arrived slowly over the Turner Ranch, spreading light across the white snow that covered everything. The storm had not ended during the night. In fact, it seemed to grow even stronger. The cold was so deep that it made the wooden walls creak and the windows fog over. But inside the ranch house, the fire still burned. Giving out gentle warmth, Caleb Turner, who had slept very little, stood near the window and looked outside. The snow was knee-deep and the wind pushed it in circles across the land. It was clear that no one would be walking anywhere today. Even strong riders would struggle through such frozen ground behind him. On the small cot near the fire, Nayeli was still asleep. Her breathing was soft now, peaceful and steady. Her hair lay over the blanket like dark silk. For the first time since she arrived, her face was free of fear. Caleb didn't want to wake her. She had walked for hours in freezing cold. She needed sleep more than anything. He quietly added more wood to the fire, moved slowly around the kitchen area, and began to prepare breakfast. He kept glancing at the cot, making sure she was comfortable. It wasn't common for him to have a guest, especially not someone young, alone, and unfamiliar with ranch life. But he felt a strange responsibility, one that surprised even him. After a while, Nayeli stirred. She opened her eyes weakly, blinking at the light. For a moment, she seemed confused. The ceiling beams, the warm air, the smell of food. Then she remembered where she was. Caleb turned from the stove. "Good morning," he said softly. Nay pulled the blanket closer around her. "Good morning," she replied. Her voice was clearer today, but still soft. "How are you feeling?" Caleb asked. "Better," she said. "Much better." "Thank you," Caleb nodded. "You're safe here. The storm hasn't let up yet. You'll need to stay until the road's clear." She accepted this without arguing. The sight outside the window made the truth obvious. Caleb placed a plate of warm cornbread, scrambled eggs, and a cup of hot tea on the table. "Eat," he said. "You need strength." Nayeli hesitated for only a second before sitting at the table. She ate slowly, politely, clearly grateful for every bite. Caleb sat across from her with his own plate, but he ate little. Focused more on watching her recover. "You walked alone in the cold for hours yesterday," Caleb said gently. "Why didn't you stay near your people?" Nayeli looked down for a moment, then answered. "I left early to gather herbs. My mother needed them. She teaches healing. When I saw dark clouds, I tried to return, but the storm came too fast." "Storms don't usually move that quickly," Caleb said. She nodded. "The old women say this winter is strange. Too cold. Too sudden." Caleb agreed. He had lived on the land long enough to trust the instincts of people who worked closely with nature. After breakfast, Nayeli helped clean the dishes. She moved quietly, respectful of Caleb's home, and he admired how she treated everything gently, as if understanding the effort behind it. When the chores were done, she sat near the fire again, soaking in the warmth. Caleb checked his animals, built barriers against the wind outside, and returned with snow covering his hat and shoulders. "You shouldn't go out too long," Nayeli said with concern. "I'll be fine," Caleb replied with a small smile. "But thank you." Throughout the day, the storm trapped them inside, forcing them into a quiet but unexpected companionship. They talked slowly at first, then more freely. Nayeli told him about her tribe's traditions. The stories the elders told at night, the songs her mother sang while preparing medicines. She spoke of her younger siblings, especially her little brother who followed her everywhere and learned many things from her. Caleb listened attentively. He rarely spoke much about himself, but around Nayeli, he found words coming out more easily. He told her about his parents, how they settled here long ago, how he grew up on this land, how he bought the ranch fully after they passed away. His life was simple, but honest. When she heard how long he had lived alone, Nayeli looked at him with quiet understanding. "You like this land," she said gently. He nodded. "I do. It's home." Nayeli smiled faintly. "My people say a person becomes part of the land if he treats it well." Caleb smiled back. "Maybe that's true." They shared moments of silence, not uncomfortable, but peaceful. The fire crackled softly, warming the air between them. By afternoon, Nayeli felt strong enough to help with light chores inside the house. She folded blankets, swept a corner, and even helped Caleb sort some dried food. Caleb tried to tell her she didn't need to, but she insisted. "In my home," she said seriously, "we help the ones who help us." The way she said it made Caleb pause. She wasn't just being polite, she genuinely believed it. Around midday, the wind outside became so loud that the ranch house shook. Nayeli jumped slightly, startled. Caleb immediately added more logs to the fire, knowing the warmth would calm her. "It's just the wind," he reassured her. "I know," she said, though fear still flickered in her eyes. "The wind sounds like voices today." Caleb listened. She was right. The storm carried strange whistling tones that made it feel almost alive. "You're safe here," he reminded her again, and she nodded gratefully. The afternoon passed with both of them staying close to the fire, talking in soft voices. The storm kept pushing against the house, but inside, the warmth grew stronger. Later, while Caleb repaired a loose wooden chair, Nayeli sat near him on the floor, sorting herbs she had carried. The gentle smell filled the room. "You know a lot about plants," Caleb said. She nodded. "My mother taught me. Healing is important in our tribe. Everyone must learn something that helps the people." "What will you become?" Caleb asked. Nayeli looked thoughtful. "I want to be like my mother. I want to help people feel better. I want to learn more medicines." Caleb admired that. "That's a good thing." Nayeli lifted her eyes. "What about you? What do you want?" Caleb looked around at his small home, the tools, the wooden walls, the land outside. "I want peace," he said simply. "A quiet life. A good life." Nayeli nodded. She understood. Peace was something everyone wished for. As evening came, the sky outside turned gray, then dark. The cold deepened. Caleb cooked a simple dinner, beans, bread, and stew, and they ate together. Nayeli's cheeks had more color now. Her strength was returning. "You have been very kind," she said softly. "My people say kindness is rare when the world is cold." Caleb shook his head. "Anyone would help you." Nayeli looked down at her hands, then back at him. "Not anyone," she said quietly. "Some fear us. Some don't trust us. Some don't want to be near us." Caleb didn't deny it. He knew that many people carried assumptions about the Apache and other tribes. "I don't see things that way," he finally said. Nayeli's eyes softened. "I know. That is why I am calm here." Night arrived, and with it, deeper silence. Caleb kept the fire alive, watching the flames dance across the room. Nayeli sat close to the fire again, hugging the blanket around her. The warm glow made her face look gentle, peaceful, nothing like the frightened girl who had arrived the night before. They talked quietly in the firelight. Nayeli asked about the stars, and Caleb told her how he learned to read the sky for weather. She told him about the songs her grandmother sang during winter nights. Caleb told her how he fixed fences, trained horses, and worked the land alone. It was simple conversation. Yet it built something meaningful between them: trust, understanding, calmness. Later, as the wind roared outside, Nayeli turned to Caleb, her voice calm but full of feeling. "You are not like the stories," she said. "What stories?" he asked. "The stories my people tell of ranchers," she answered. "Stories that say ranchers do not listen, that they shout, that they break peace. You are different." Caleb looked at her for a long moment. "Maybe stories don't fit everyone," he said. "Maybe people are more than stories." Nayeli nodded slowly, as if something inside her finally settled. The firelight flickered between them, warm and gentle. As the night deepened, Caleb prepared the cot again. Nayeli lay down carefully, wrapping herself in the thick blanket. Her eyes closed slowly, and her breathing softened into the rhythm of rest. Before sleep took her, she whispered into the quiet room, "Thank you for being kind. I will remember this." Caleb didn't know why her words affected him so strongly, but they did. He watched her fall asleep, peaceful and warm. The storm raged outside. But inside the ranch house, trust had grown. Trust strong enough to break the cold night apart. And Caleb realized something quietly. He was no longer alone in his silent home. Not tonight. Not while the fire burned, and not while the young Apache girl slept safely under his roof. The storm lasted 2 more days, long, cold, and heavy. Snow piled against the walls of the Turner Ranch, covering the fences and the trail so deeply that even tall horses would have struggled to walk through it. But inside the small ranch house, warmth continued to glow from the fireplace, filling every corner with a soft golden light. During those 2 days, Caleb Turner and Nayeli settled into an easy rhythm. It surprised them how naturally they understood each other, even though their worlds were different. Nayeli cooked simple meals with the herbs she carried. Caleb taught her how to mend leather straps and fix small tools. She sang quiet songs sometimes while helping with indoor chores. And he listened without interrupting, grateful for a sound other than the wind. On the morning of the third day, the sky finally cleared. The wind slowed, the sunlight returned, and the world outside sparkled under a thick layer of white. Caleb stepped outside to check the land. The cold hit him instantly, but he welcomed it. It was a sign that travel would be possible soon. When he returned, he found Nayeli standing near the window, her blanket wrapped around her shoulders. She watched the land with calm eyes. "It is time for me to return," she said softly. Caleb nodded slowly, though a quiet heaviness settled in his chest. He knew this day would come. He had prepared for it, yet the feeling inside him surprised him. The house had grown warm not only because of the fire, but because of her presence, her gentle voice, her calm steps, the peace she brought with her. "I'll help you reach the trail," Caleb said, "but we should wait until the sun is high." "The cold will be less then," Nayeli agreed. She moved gently around the house, folding the blankets she used, cleaning her dishes, and making sure she left everything neat. Her actions showed respect, not only for the space he gave her, but for the kindness she received. Caleb packed food for her journey: dried meat, bread, warm tea in a small flask, and a wool shawl of his late mother's that he found in an old chest. He hesitated before giving it, but the memory of the storm and how close she had come to danger made the choice easy. "You should take this," he said, holding the shawl out. Nayeli touched the soft wool gently. "This is special," she said quietly. "I cannot take it," Caleb replied. "It will keep you warm." She looked into his eyes, searching for the truth, then nodded slowly and accepted it with both hands. "Thank you," she whispered. As the sun climbed higher, Caleb saddled his horse, a strong brown gelding named Jasper. Nayeli walked beside him, her steps small but steady. The morning air was crisp, and every breath made small clouds rise and fade. The snow crunched under their feet. The trail leading toward the Apache settlement began beyond a cluster of tall pines. Caleb walked ahead, clearing parts of the path with his boots, making sure it was safe. Nayeli followed quietly, her blanket pulled close around her, her eyes watching everything with thoughtful calmness. Halfway to the trail, she suddenly stopped. "What is it?" Caleb asked. Nayeli kneeled in the snow and touched a small broken branch. "Someone passed here early," she said. Caleb looked at the trail closely. "Probably one of your people searching for you," he said. She nodded, but her expression was thoughtful. "They worried," she whispered. "My mother. She must have been afraid." Caleb didn't speak. He understood family fear well. He had lost his parents early in life, and he knew what it meant to want someone safe. When they reached the tall pines, they saw footprints, many footprints leading toward the settlement. Nayeli's breath caught slightly in relief. "They found my trail," she said softly. "They are close." Caleb nodded. "Good." For a moment, they stood together in quiet. Snow fell softly from the trees as the breeze moved through the branches. The morning sun painted the sky with a soft golden color. Nayeli turned to Caleb, her eyes gentle but full of emotion. "You helped me without asking anything," she said. "My people will hear of your kindness." "You don't have to tell anyone," Caleb replied. "I just did what anyone should do." Her expression softened. "That is why I want to tell them, because not everyone is like you." Caleb didn't know what to say. He looked away for a moment, toward the horizon. Nayeli stepped closer and held out something small in her hand. Caleb looked down and saw a bracelet made of tiny beads in warm colors, red, brown, and white. "This is for you," she said. "I made it last night, while you were checking the barn door." Caleb hesitated. "You didn't have to, I wanted to," she said. "So you remember that you are not alone here." He accepted the bracelet carefully, as if it were something fragile and rare. "Thank you," he said, his voice low. Nayeli smiled softly. "It is a gift of respect." Before either of them could speak again, movement appeared through the trees. Several Apache riders approached slowly, their horses stepping through the snow with practiced ease. When they saw Nayeli, They called out with relief and hurried forward. One woman, older and wrapped in a thick shawl, rushed directly to her. Nayeli stepped into her arms, and the older woman held her tightly. "My mother," Nayeli said quietly to Caleb over her shoulder. Her mother looked at Caleb with eyes full of gratitude and seriousness. She spoke in her own language to Nayeli first, asking many things at once. Was she hurt? Was she cold? Did anyone try to harm her? Nayeli reassured her gently. Then her mother turned to Caleb and nodded deeply. A gesture of respect. "Thank you," she said in careful English. Caleb nodded back. "I'm glad she's safe." The other riders greeted Caleb with polite nods as well. There was no fear, no anger, only relief that their missing daughter had been found and cared for. Nayeli's mother signaled for her to mount one of the horses. Nayeli looked at Caleb again. There was something in her eyes, not sorrow, not fear, but a feeling that told him she would not forget him. "Will you be all right?" Caleb asked softly. "Yes," Nayeli answered. "My family is here." She climbed onto the horse, but held the shawl he had given her tightly around her shoulders. She turned once more. Her final words before leaving carried warmth strong enough to melt a winter morning. "I will come again someday." When the land is warm, Caleb felt a small but steady warmth inside his chest. "You'll be welcome," he said. Her mother guided the horses. And the small group began their journey back to the Apache settlement. Caleb watched until the riders vanished behind the curves of the snowy land. For the first time in many years, the ranch felt empty again. The silence was deep. Not cold, but different. Caleb returned to his ranch house slowly. When he stepped inside, everything looked the same. The fire, the wooden chairs, the quiet rooms, yet something felt changed. As if the house itself remembered the gentle presence that had stayed within its walls. He placed the beaded bracelet on a small, wooden shelf above the fireplace. It caught the light beautifully, the colors warm against the wood. Days passed. The snow softened under the sun. The cattle began to move more freely. Caleb returned to his daily chores, but his mind often drifted to the storm. The soft voice asking for warmth, the calm conversations by firelight, and the quiet way Nayeli had thanked him. Spring arrived slowly. The snow melted into streams. Blossoms appeared on the trees. The world felt alive again. One quiet afternoon, Caleb was fixing a fence near the trail. He heard something, the sound of a horse approaching. He looked up. A young woman in a familiar shawl was riding toward him, her dark hair shining in the warm light. Nayeli smiled softly when she reached him. "My people are visiting the valley," she said. "I thought, maybe I could help with your chores again?" Caleb smiled back, feeling warmth rise inside him, not from the sun, but from something deeper. "You're always welcome here," he said. And as she stepped down from her horse, the land around them felt gentle, almost as if the earth itself approved of their meeting again. For two people from different worlds, a storm had brought them together, and now the warm season was ready to show them what their shared path might become.